So I did autocross for like 2 events, and I was like, this is way too boring and regulated and stuff. And I've been, a skateboarder my whole life.
Okay, okay. So you come from like the skateboarding world. Okay.
Yeah. So, everybody, um, I don't, everyone always asks how I heard about drifting, but I feel like if you're into cars, like you just know about drifting, right? So
Okay.
it was something that I
That's
knew I
fair.
wanted to do.
That's fair.
I drifted on Forza when I was, you know, Forza Horizon, like Forza Horizon 1. Um, and then I just picked up a car in 2014. It was an SR swapped S14. Picked it up for 2 grand.
Which is worth
And
$1 million now.
yeah, yeah. So, and that's back when we had Columbus Motor Speedway. So I thought it was going to be just keep it something super low key, something that I could do in town, street drive my car, and then the rest was history, really.
Got it. So Columbus, so I remember the Columbus. It was like a thing, right? I remember Brooks Church was always out there promoting because he's from Columbus as well. So old dude that used to drive way back in the day. So you went out to an event, right? And you take out your $2,000 at SR swapped S14 to this event. You slide for the first time because you're like autocross sounds complete. I mean, it was boring. You went to a couple of events or whatever, and then from there, this is 2014. I'm imagining, right? 2014. Um, there's competition events going on, right? Because I was still obviously hosting events at the time. Actually, that was the year I took a hiatus. Actually, so you got into drifting as I took like a little hiatus of U.S. drift in 2014 after 2013, and in 2014, so you go to this event, and then I'm imagining you started going to other events. I would imagine, right? So you started going maybe because I remember you had kind of said, "Hey, dude, I drive at the speed drum." One time that I met you, is that right?
Yeah. So in 2014, I drove at Columbus Motor Speedway. I only ever drove there one time, and that
Oh,
was my
okay,
very first drift event. And then
okay.
my second drift event was that's when they were still having events at the that track up in the Cleveland area by Lake Erie.
Oh, Lake County Speedway.
Yeah. So that was my second event ever. And then my third event was actually one of yours at Lucas Oil Speedway. It was like some pizza party thing. Um,
Really?
yeah.
Oh
So I know that
gosh.
I went there.
Okay.
That was like Steve Scherzer's like second event or something.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and then after that, I did a lot of like Club Loose 2, Midvale stuff.
Midvale pit race with
Um,
John Wagner and them.
yeah. So it was really just the first year was Midvale, that Lake County Speedway. Um,
You got around.
really, yeah. So I was just driving as much as I could my first year. Like I was buying, used tires from like the used tire place, and you know, just driving
Okay.
as much as I could.
So dude, so 2014, you buy a car, you start going to all these events, you're instantly hooked. I'm imagining because you're spending money, time. You're spending your time, right, going out to these events. Um, so let's just say, okay, you ran your first year. From there, what happened? What was on your mind? Was going pro? Was that a thought in your mind back then, or was it like, hey, I want to do this a little bit more serious? If you don't mind walking us through, hey, what is it that you were thinking about in this first year? Because obviously you can't compare 2014 to now. I don't think you can. I think things have changed a lot. It's a lot, maybe a little bit of the same for the driver, but on just what's going on, there's way more events now, right? So it's an awesome thing for drifting. I think it's more accessible to a lot of more people, right, in different regions of the country. I think that there's not an excuse anymore of like, hey, dude, I can't make it to an event. Like, I think for the most part, except that like if you're in Wyoming or some weird shit like that, no offense, people, you're probably like a 2 hour, 3 hour drive for an event. Would that be like an accurate statement? Like in this side of the Midwest or East Coast, Midwest, Southeast or whatever. I would say that's a good assumption, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially from the Columbus area. I mean, we have a ton of events within 3, 4 hours.
Okay.
Even today, I mean, even back then was there was a ton as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So fast forward, we're 2015 now. What's in your head? Like, what's going on?
So at the end of 2014, I was sort of out driving that car because it was just a stock SR20, and that
Shit rips,
that
dog.
thing was that thing was a beast. I mean, it I beat the absolute crap out of it, and it was totally fine. But I decided I wanted some more power, and if I tried to upgrade the SR20, it was probably just going to blow up, and then another SR20 was going to cost money or whatever. So I decided at the end of 2014 that I was going to LS swap my car.
Okay.
Found a car actually in Florida, um, a shell that was it pretty much just needed a drivetrain. So I sold my S14. Um, I actually traded the swap for a motor and trans from Jonathan Durham back,
Okay.
he's still around. And
Yeah, yeah, he
then,
is. He's our Canada guy. He's the crack
yeah,
he's the crack man.
yeah. So I got this car, this new chassis from Florida. And remember at this time, I mean, I still was not uh, a very good mechanic, right? I
You're
was
learning.
still
You're learning. You're go.
understanding the
Yeah.
basics of a car.
Okay.
So I got the LS swap in, got it running around April. It was just a stock 5.3. I mean, nothing crazy at all. Um, Made like 300 horsepower, and then I drove that. That's when I started doing speedrome.
Okay.
Um, I forget what I was driving back then. I think it was mostly speedrome and Midvale. Um,
Yeah,
and
there
then
weren't really kill care events back then. At that time, uh, 2015, that was like my return, I believe, and then MDU we would go there obviously for Street Life Tour, right? Um, so yeah, 2015 I was back, and then yeah we brought back the Street Life Tour with MDU at the time, because 2014 we did it with US Drift. So you had those events. Lake County, I think, was still doing stuff at the time, maybe,
yeah,
possibly. Speedrome, yes, and then yeah, that's about it in this region.
and I did do. That's when Scuds was still running Auto City stuff. So I went to one of his events that year. Um, I think that's about it. I did do Street Life Tour in 2015.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's when I decided that I wanted to just try competitive drifting, and since Killcare was the closest thing to my house,
Uh huh.
I figured that would be a great starting point.
How'd you do?
Um,
How'd you do? Because that 2015, there were some big hitters coming out at the time.
yeah, because it was crazy for me at that point because there was like Jared Deanda there, I think,
Yeah.
and Chris Forsberg was there
Oh, okay, that's the year Chris came out.
judging.
Yep.
Um, and they were all I remember looking at like Andrew Lewis or um, Mike Fayock, the guys that now I see as peers.
Yeah.
Back then, I was like, these guys are gods.
Stone Cold Stoneback, I believe.
Yeah,
Magic Mike
yeah.
Pollard. Yeah, a lot of good heavy hitters.
So I didn't qualify. I was able to link the track, but I didn't qualify because that's the year when like JP Honeycutt tried it. Um,
Did he really? JP
yeah,
tried it that year?
yeah, he tried it. I think maybe Josh,
Really?
what's his name, tried it. Yeah, a couple guys tried it.
Okay, so local dudes were okay. They came out, they tried it. Okay, I mean those events
Yeah,
were always fun, but yeah, it was a little bit different. You'd have to lay down one solid run in qualifying at the time, right?
yeah. It was funny. It was such a culture shock because like I was out there in practice in like jeans and a t-shirt, and nobody thought I was driving, and like Swan was yelling at me because I was supposed to have my driver's suit on and all this crap. And it was so funny, but
That's awesome.
um, I I didn't qualify, but I definitely decided that it's something that I wanted to do more of. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So 2015. So that's September 2015 because obviously that's when we try to end the season and run like the big events and stuff like that because of the weather. It's so beautiful. So, very excited. So, if you're listening, come out to No Star Bash this year. It's going to be a good time. Very excited for that in September at Killcare. Um, so, 2015, we're approaching the off season. So, I'm imagining that you start building a beast of a car.
So actually 2015 to 2016 was probably my most chill off season I've ever had.
Okay.
All I did was I put a cam in the motor and I just cleaned some stuff up. I didn't really I think we rebuilt the transmission. I mean, just maintenance, and maybe made 40 more horsepower or something at most. It was still the 5.3 iron block, $500 junkyard motor
It's the same
with a,
car. It's the same car.
yes, same car, same everything. Um, and that was it. So I did change the steering angle, I think, but like really small stuff, right? Like I was done and driving the car again in like March, because Speedrome would start having events like as soon as it stopped snowing. So
March.
that was
March.
like a super short off season, right back at it. I actually bought a truck because all the way up until this point, I was towing a trailer with my mom's Pathfinder.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so we got a truck, we got an enclosed trailer. Um, that was sort of the step up for 2016. Um, but that's when I did the full season of MDU for the first time.
That's a 2016 season, and I believe the car went through a color change, and you showed up right, and it was looking great. If I remember this right, I mean it's been some years now.
Oh yeah,
So
that's right.
you went through a color change, right? And then I mean you kind of show up and like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this. And if I could remember right, 2016, we kicked off the season at Gateway, I would imagine, and the reason we did that, uh, complete transparency, is because we knew, right? Because I mean, you got to remember, we're in the seventh or eighth year of like program, and we kind of know how things roll, right? Just from data. We went to Gateway. Is that accurate?
Yep, it was
Okay.
Gateway.
Yeah, and we do that, guys, because pro-am events, at the first event, everybody wants to come. Not just because it's Gateway, but it's the first event of the season. Everybody wants to come out with their fresh builds, and you still kind of see it today, right? With opening day, tons of people show up to opening day. They've been inside their houses all winter. They just want to go out and fucking drive, you know. But again, we're talking about, a pro-am event here at Gateway. And if my memory serves me right, you podium third place at that event. Is that correct?
Yep. So that was
Yep. I still got it,
that was
man.
like
Still
one of the
remember.
craziest things ever. I mean, showing up to an event where you're like, you know, still all the people that I, you know, thought of as gods the season before were still driving for the
Yeah.
most part. Um,
Who was podium? So I've been imagining Fiat, BP. No, was Brian Peters still driving in 2016?
I don't think so.
No, BP. Yeah, you're old BP. If you're, he's at final bout right now, in Wisconsin. But yeah, you're old if you see this, buddy. Um, Let me think here. So what was the podium at that event? I can't remember. I can't recall.
It was Steve Fischel.
Oh, Fischel. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
and
dude
then
rips. That dude's a killer.
I think Fayak won, and then I
Fiat one.
think
Okay.
Fischel got second, and then I got
Locals.
third.
So for you guys that don't know Steve's a local dude in St. Louis. I think, yeah, he was probably like in his third year of competitive driving at the time, and I mean he was an animal in that. I think it was like was it a Jay Z swapped S13 that he had? Yeah, Jay Z.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jay Z swapped, and then you had your LS swapped car. So a little bit of a, the podium was kind of cool. You got a rotary. I believe that's what Mike was still on a rotary, right? And he still is today. I'm imagining.
yeah.
So rotary, Jay Z, and then LS, right, on podium, at this first event. So you podium. Now what? What's going through your head? You're like, oh shit, cool, I did it.
Yeah, I mean, it was so crazy because like I had no expectations. Like that's what was so fun about that event, is because there was no expectations at all. And then coming out and being able to perform like that, like I remember when I won my top 8 battle, I think it was against either Austin Mata or Chance Crooks. It was one of the two guys. Um,
Who driving pro spec now, pro two,
yeah, they both
okay,
pro spec this season.
pro spec dudes. Okay.
and I got into the top four, it was like so crazy.
Yeah,
Like I'll remember that moment forever because I was
I
like,
can
wow,
imagine.
like I'm actually in the top four now. I could actually podium, and then I actually drove again. I beat Robbins in the top four.
Oh, I forgot Alec. It was
Or
Alex
no,
here
I
too.
actually lost to Mike in the top four, but then I
Okay.
beat Robbins for third because we battled for third.
Another one, yeah, Alec Robbins. Yeah, we always battled for third in pro am. I think it's a good. We believe it is always a good thing, right, for dudes to battle it out for their actual position. Um, but okay, so dude, so you win that. It's exciting. I don't remember the rest of that season. Like that's a long time ago. I'm old, you know. So, uh, 2016. I mean, how did you do for that whole entire year? How did that pro am season go?
So that season, um, that was a really fun season. First of all, because that was also the same year that was we did No Star Bash at Gingerman for the three. There was a 3 day
Oh,
event for Fourth of
oh,
July,
oh yeah, that was a good event. That
and
was.
that was still that's the most fun I've ever had drifting to this day. Like that was one of the best events ever.
Did it have something to do with
Um,
a fire? With a fire?
just I was just like I got so many laps. I mean, it was like I went to like 20 kendas or something like in that
Oh,
weekend. I was just
Jesus.
every session I would just go out and drive the whole time,
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's
and it
crazy.
was like, South Haven is such a nice
It
place
is
too. It's like
beautiful.
the whole thing was just perfect. But anyway, that season I got like I don't know, maybe fifth or something at because the next round was at Lucas Oil Speedway
Ooh, that's
because
a.
there I like drove off into the pond and there was like a huge puddle at that point because it had rained a bunch
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
and everyone was like, "Don't go in the puddle," and then I drove right into the puddle. So that was funny, but um, I ended up getting fourth overall that season because I got third in the first event, I got third in the last event, and the last event was that really cool. Um, U.S. Drift was there too. It was that new track out there. It was that road course or whatever.
Oh
I forget what it was
yeah,
called.
it was in PA, right? Like in Pennsylvania somewhere. It was
Yeah, it
like
was
out there.
somewhere out east, and it was like brand new or whatever. Um,
Okay.
but long story short, I ended up getting fourth in the season by 1 point, and
Wow.
Human got third. So, and Human was driving, right? Wisefab, dog box, big LS car. And here I am in like my, you know, basic car, and I got 1 point behind him because like at Killcare, I qualified like 14th or something. If I would have qualified like 12th, I would have gotten third and got my license in 2016.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool though. Like and that's I think that's one of the things that I do miss of like earlier days, right? Like where qualifying mattered because there's points up for grabs there, and then there's points for hey, how you end the event, and that to me is real competition. I mean, obviously things have changed, and I'll go into that a little bit later, and ask you some kind of questions, from a driver's perspective, and and just kind of figure some things out here as people are listening to our dumbasses kind of talk about this. But so you got to that fourth place, and I mean, How did you feel? How did you feel? Were you proud of yourself? I would imagine you would. You were because that was like your full blown season, right, in competition drifting. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I was stoked on it for sure. I mean, getting fourth overall, um, it was great because you got to remember at this time still, FD was never in the picture. Like there was never a goal of like, oh, I got to get my license to go drive FD. It was just,
You're just driving.
you know, that wasn't even on the table. I mean, I could never even fathom doing that. Right. So I wasn't like, oh, I'm so bummed because I didn't get my license. It was just, oh, this is sick. I got fourth. Like, let's, go
Awesome.
into next season.
And that's an awesome. I believe that's an awesome attitude to have, and I think. I don't remember 2016, but 2016 happens, and we're going into 2017. I believe that was the year that we took on trying to do something in the southeast. Is that right? 2017.
Yeah. So 2017, you guys did Southeast Drift Union as well.
SDU, yeah. Big
Yeah.
mistake. Fuck. But it was cool. It was a good experience. And again, complete transparency for the guys that don't know me or don't know like the organization. Midwest Drift Union. I was part of that. I am part of it. I guess one of the founders. And then SDU was just our southeast leg. There wasn't a Pro-Am at the time, and we were kind of going through some financial issues. We figured, hey, this is young Edgar, by the way, talking at the time. Hey, maybe if we did more events down southeast, this could kind of like help us in the Midwest, and we could do this, and we could juggle two different things with the team that we have. And the team was awesome, man. Like Swan, John, Chusky, Aaron. Shout out to all those guys. TR, he's always been on my dude's always been there to help wherever he can. It's one of those things where it's like, yo, we'll split the team, we'll do this, and on top of that, we're running Holly LS Fest, which Swan still does today. So there's a lot kind of going on, right? There's like a lot. You're going to work full time, and then Friday you're taking off to go run an event. I can't imagine how much of a nightmare that is for drivers too, right? Traveling and doing all that. But we'll go back to you. We're in 2017 now, and obviously I think we're going back to Gateway for round one. Is that right?
Yep, back to Gateway. I had a like same chassis, but the car was practically all new. Like I did a build, different motor,
Okay.
dog box, um, full, pretty much full rebuild of the chassis, new suspension, everything was new practically. So that was a big winter project, a big learning experience for me.
And go ahead. I remember that round. I believe you won.
Yeah, so the whole season was kind of funny because I would just break axles every event. Like I'd come up to the line and I would like dump the clutch and then both axles would just break. And
Fuck.
then like round one, we forgot the spares. So we were like scrambling to find spares, and then we finally get them in the car. And this is when Tuner Tools was helping me, but they were also helping Shane.
Okay.
So it was sort of like the split time, barely get it back in the car, and then I go qualify second, and then I end up winning Gateway. Garrett got second, and then
Yep, that was the year. Garrett Dent was kind of dedicated to MDU at that year, I believe.
yeah, and then I
So
think Hurst might have got third at that event. I forget honestly who got third.
yeah, Hurst really in Pro-Am from what I remember. Jonathan Cash Money, he really kind of struggled to the very end because I remember specifically for that Pro-Am event, right? Where U.S. Drift, myself, and then the SDU, we all ran in one final at not Gateway, at Killcare, and it came down to me looking. I will never forget me looking at Jonathan and saying, "Hey, you better go out there and fucking win," because we were looking at the scores and he was 1 point away from. He had to win like a certain battle. I forget who it was against, and that battle went one more time, and I'm like, dude, like you gotta win this battle or something. And that might have been the year that Fiat kind of like jumped his car over, like tried to fucking jump his
Yeah.
car. I mean, it was wild, dude. Great driving, great event. But yeah, I mean, the dude ended up doing what he needed to do, and he got through, and he got his license, and that there it is. Jonathan chasing his dream, right? In driving pro spec, I believe for 3 seasons. Is that right? I don't know. I think it was
Yeah, he did
two,
3.
3 seasons, and he's now in Pro One. So kind of took that like that seems very tough to me. That's like a tough road, dude. That's like the fucking go this way or go this, the easy road or the hard road. That seems like the fucking hard road to me. But to each their own, dude. So that okay. So let's talk about that season. I know we threw some weird shit in there. So we had that event. We probably did M1. Someone said the Detroit track. M1 Concourse was one of the rounds that year, right?
Yep, M1 Concourse was one of them.
Um, Obviously Kill Care was the last round, and then what was the other one?
Lake Erie Speedway.
Lake Erie Speedway. Oh yeah, Lake Erie Speedway. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
E-race, yeah, like where
Yeah,
FD was a couple weeks ago.
we did run an event, and that event I think that was the event that kind of, I mean, they grabbed the nail, put it in the coffin. Psh, psh. There wasn't that many drivers there. I don't know the amount, but maybe 12, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't very many at that event, that's for sure.
14. Someone said 14 drivers. Okay. So that season, and not to take anything away from anybody, but that season, I mean, the top of the pack is, you guys are going back at it with each other and stuff. I know Gateway is like one of. I know you like Gateway. It's a fast track and it's cool. But kind of looking at it, what was your favorite part of that season, 2017?
I mean, Lake Erie Speedway was a pretty fun event because that was the third I won. That was the third event in a row that I won. So, and I don't know if anybody ever did that in MDU before that, according to Nick Quigley. So
I
that was fun
I don't think so.
because being able to win three in a row
Three P.
um, was pretty special. Having a chance to win the whole season, obviously it didn't happen, but being in that position was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, and
Um,
quite frank, no, it is cool. I mean, like quite frankly, I think and again, I'm going back to like the early 2000s, but like you really progressed really quick. You know what I'm saying? You progressed really fast. For a driver that wanted to kind of compete at that pro-am level and stuff like that. And is it car? Is it? I mean, it's probably you. You're not fucking human. But you get that at that point where you get that third win. Is that when you say, hey, I maybe might want to go? I mean, at that point, you're getting a license, right? You've secured a license at that point. Were you already thinking of FD at the time?
um, so I remember that year I went to an event in Bowling Green called like Carcraft Nationals, and it was like me, Hurst, Dirk, a bunch of guys from Georgia, um, Dustin Miles, and we were all sitting around talking. And this is when I'm like, pretty much know I have a license at this point still. And we were just talking. I even remember then I was asking Dirk because at the time he was in Pro 2, and I was like, how much does it cost or whatever? And I was like, yep, no way. Like, so I still had no plans at all to do it. Like, obviously I wanted to, but I just thought there's no way. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's unfeasible because you hear these people say like, people love to throw around numbers when it comes to pro drifting when they really have like no
Fucking clue.
idea of how much it actually costs. So everyone's like, it's going to cost 100 grand. You're going to be, so that's the lens I was looking at it through. So I still had no, you know,
At the 2017, yeah. So we're not at the finals yet, right? So the Bro-Am finals at Killcare that year, um, and someone's throwing numbers at you, and you're like, oh fuck, like, dude, this seems nuts, right? But even then, I mean, let's talk about Pro-Am. You were running a pretty solid, solid. I would say team and program. Um, can you compare the two? So pay attention. If you're out there and you are inspired pro am driver, and if you're in the Midwest, you're a fucking liar because I'm not running pro am anymore. There's the bomb. Um, can you compare the cost of pro am and pro two, pro spec, Jeff?
uh, I mean, it's back then, I think it's a lot different than it is now. Um, because I think that pro am, like the shootout type events these days, are so much closer to pro spec than back then. I mean, I think the jump back in 2017 was a lot higher because my car in 2017 for pro am was like, you know, that's like a run of the mill grassroots car at this point,
400, 400
like that's a
ish.
street league car at this point, like it's 400 horsepower, 240. I mean, sure, it had a dog box, but like that doesn't really, um, that was the only special thing about it. And I was running 300 treadwear Kendas, right? And back then they were like $75 a tire. Um,
Word.
yeah.
Bring that
So,
back, inflation. Bring that back.
and they lasted like 10 laps. Like I'd go like maybe two or maybe like 4 to 6 a pro-am event, right? It was cheap, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did it super cheap. And then
Okay.
you jump up to pro 2 at the time, and right, you're paying $100 a tire, period. You use a full set in 2 laps every time, no matter where you're at. Um, the travel is way farther. You're going to California, in Texas and Florida versus,
Cost,
St. Louis. So
fuel, food,
you got to have guys, right?
backups. Yeah, I mean, you have to have guys if you're going to that level by yourself. You're dumb,
Yeah. So
and I know buddies are always willing to help and stuff like that. But is that worth it sometimes, right? Like carrying the weight of some dudes probably even more work than even having them there. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I guess to your point, I mean, yeah, things have changed, right? Like going back to 2017, and full disclosure, I believe that the class of 2017 was really the last. And when I say class guys, I mean like the guys that graduated and got their licenses from the Midwest, Drift Union in 2017. I think that was the last real solid, class, I believe, right? Because why shootouts were created, right? That idea was straight up Brian Eggert's, and full, everyone would bitch about that back in the day and stuff like that, and oh, this is such a bad idea, this and that, and then oh no, this is a good idea, and then like now every fucking pro-am's doing it, and it's because for events, right? For an event organizer, it's very hard. You got to you got to rent 4 tracks. Then you got to have all the teams, And again, it's just like a driver, right? There's like logistics that go into running events, right? There's a spreadsheet of shit that you have to check off in order to be able to run an event. It's not cheap to run these events. But on top of that, right? The idea was, hey, if you do a shootout, right, and there's multiple shootouts, the idea isn't just to like run one shootout and win. Like you should take that season and schedule yourself and run multiple shootouts maybe. But obviously people don't like taking that road, right, Geoff? Because it's a little bit hard. It's hard. That's a harder road to take. So if you have a license, you should just go to, hey, I got a license. Let's just go directly to FD. And I believe like in today's world, like you were talking about earlier, some of these cars are like super overbuilt. Can the drivers really drive them? Because I look at Pro Spec, bro, and I've even seen comments where it's like, dude, you look at a Drift Indy Street League event, those drivers are, they know what they're doing in a car. Some of these dudes are just building cars and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
so I've actually been thinking about that a lot recently. And I think there's some validity on both sides. I think and this is the trap that I fell into, and this is a trap that I think a lot of guys fall into, even guys with plenty of funding. So it's not a money issue. It's like a culture issue. So right, you do up until 2019 when I got my Z, I only ever had one drift car. Right, I didn't have a practice car or a fun car or whatever you want to call it. I just had my S14.
One car to worry about.
Yeah, so in Pro Am, that's fine. Like 2017, I was driving bash events with it. Like it didn't matter, right? I just line up and go with everybody. It didn't, it was whatever because it was on par with a lot of cars that would show up to grassroots events. So but even then, I wasn't driving as hard as I should have driven, and that's sort of like more specific to my story, but to expand it to everybody. I think what happens is they get into FD, right, and they're hyper focused on FD. They build a car, they have this sick car, they go to FD, but they're not driving. They're not driving because it's 4 rounds a year, okay, and then
Pro
in
two,
between,
Pro two,
yeah, in Pro 2,
Pro two. And by the
in
way, give me a second, just context here. By the way, 2017, Jeff Donati, I believe, wins the MDU championship, first place, right? And he
yep.
gets his license to be a Formula Drift licensed driver, Pro 2 driver, and he does go on to Pro 2. So this dude actually does know what the fuck he's talking about. Okay, continue, Jeff. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. So, I think what the problem is essentially, guys just don't drive, right? So, they get in Pro Spec, Pro 2, whatever. They do a ton of like they do a ton of work to their car, or they build a new car, and then they don't have anybody to drive with. They don't drive at all, right? Even if they take their Pro Spec car to an event, a grassroots event, or a shootout event or whatever and try to get some seat time. It's not enough. Like it's just not. Um,
Amen.
and then they start to get rusty, right? You have this crazy car, but then you start to get rusty because like when I was driving Pro Spec, or Pro 2 at the time, I had a bunch of I went to a bunch of events with my Pro 2 car, but it didn't help me at all. Like I was just doing demo laps essentially. Like I was just spending money on free demos. It's not actually helping me. Um, because I wasn't getting any valuable practice and mainly in the follow. And I think that's the hardest part of drifting is following. And especially when the cars are that fast and that smoky and that crazy. Um, But on the other side, I mean, so that's my theory is guys don't drive enough. And when I mean drive enough, I mean like you need to be
Every weekend.
so not every weekend, but like,
Yeah.
Keegan and I, when we go to an event, we do 40 laps and they're all tandem. You know what
Rad.
I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we're actually training. Like like we're grinding and training, not purposely, but at the end of the day, that's what we're doing.
No, not
And
at
I'm
all. Keegan,
then
amazing.
right
Keegan's an amazing driver. I mean, you could tell. I mean, the dude's been driving for what, maybe 2 years, maybe
he 1 full year,
one
like 365 days.
one full year, and the kid's a fucking beast.
Yeah, way better than I ever was in my first year. And I think that that's so key, and I'm just realizing it is like going and just lining up with a couple guys, maybe doing 5 or 6 tandems. Sure, that's fine, but that's not going to make you better, and that's not going to make you great. And I honestly think that right now I'm driving the best I've ever driven because Keegan and I go to these events. We just line up and just tandem all day. I mean, and then when you tandem like that, it's like you learn so much more, right? It's just like doing anything, right? It's like if you practice, in your world, right? If you practice soccer once a month versus the guy that practices once a day with a tight knit team that he always is practicing with, they're going to be better, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
So,
practice makes perfect, right? You remember that saying, right? Everybody, hey kids,
yeah. So,
practice makes perfect, and or even and I think that's the one thing, Jeff, that I've always had, like just from running events, and for me, it was always a practice of like, hey, how do we make the events better, the organization better, the platform better, and stuff like that. But one thing I've never really understood was the guy that would show up, and this is like in the last like 5 years, like they show up to an event and like they'll do 1 or 2 laps and just sit in the fucking pits like all day long. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never understood that, and I hope guys are into drifting because they want to drive, get better, and the conversation today is not style and whatever. We're talking about Geoff Donati here, and we've kind of stopped at the how what should a pro-am dude do, or not, even if you don't even want to be a pro, if you just want to be a better driver in general, right? Because I think that's what you're talking about, Geoff. You should do more laps and get more tandem runs in. Like you guys just heard, Geoff and Keegan, they practice together a lot. They travel buddies and stuff. So you guys do about 40 actual tandem laps an event, and I'm guessing that you're leading and then you're switching, and you're just kind of switching and switching and switching and just practicing on getting better. Is that right?
yep, exactly. So we just go out. I mean, at this point, we don't even need like a warm up lap. We just get out there and we just do,
Damn.
right? Like I'll lead, he follows, then we
That's
switch.
that's sick.
So,
That's sick. We have a question here. So Suicide Garage is asking. So do you think events like Clutch Kickers will help with the Pro 2 field and push competition, or do you think people will pull away more from FD to run those events? So I guess he's talking about cash grab events or whatever. I mean, I'll let you answer that, and then I'll give you my take on it.
so I mean, um, I've been really considering getting back into this stuff more seriously, to be honest. And I've thought a lot about this too. What would I want to do? Would I want to try to get back into the FD, or would I try to just be content doing these cash grab shootout events, or something like Clutch Kickers, where it's not really a shootout because there is series points, but it is big money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I mean, you can see it happening right now, right? Squirt is exclusively driving cash grab events and making great money. Um, Dirk is doing that. Nate Hamilton is doing that. Dustin Miles is doing that. There's a lot of guys that have stepped down from FD and are driving these cash grab events. Um, but I think it really depends because, and this is something that you sort of have to experience it, but FD is just, it's just something special, right? You're there, being part of it. The whole thing is just special. And it's, you can't really justify it logically, right? Like, sure, it's really expensive and it takes a ton of time and all this stuff. But when you're there, it's like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world. So, sure, on paper, a Clutch Kickers or a, Riverside 1000 or 10,000 or whatever these events are, make sense that maybe Pro 2 guys would start to drop down into that, which I think totally is going to happen. But will it overtake FD or sort of make Pro Spec obsolete? I don't think that will ever happen because it's just something, it's something special. And it's like,
It's a marketing machine that's moved, and it's a flywheel that's it's just never going to stop. It's like a steam engine, right? It's going, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think FD is where it is. I think it's going to be harder to achieve that, to get there. Not you, Geoff. I think you could just petition, man. To be honest, but you know, um, yeah, I no, I completely agree with you. I think that FD is here to stay. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, and the one that challenges it is dumb and not really thinking, doesn't really understand what's really going on, right? From my perspective, I think the cash grab events, yeah, I mean, I look at it things differently. I look at it from a promoter standpoint. Clutch Kickers, what they're doing, they're wiggling, I believe, the carrot in front of those drivers. I think there's only going to be, just like even in Pro-Am, right? Because Pro-Ams, I mean, some of them have, payouts and stuff like that. Shootouts have payouts. Um, did have payouts or whatever. But it's one of those things where, I think they're wiggling the carrot, and the guys that are close to those events should experience them and learn from those drivers that are there. But I always think there's going to be a certain amount of drivers, a small group of them, that are going to go there, wipe house. They're going to wipe the house. And same with Riverside, same with the guys in North Dakota. They do a 10K event as well. The MDU event that we were going to run at St. Louis, a little bit different because it's still a pro-am, right? And the rules, and that's a whole nother different story, right? Dudes don't like rules anymore. They like the whole 10K thing, cash grab stuff. But I do think that, like you were saying earlier, there's some drivers that have cars, right? That are pro drivers that are going to show up to these events and try to grab, some money. Why wouldn't they?
yeah, I mean, like for somebody like me, right? Not to
Well,
be,
why not?
conceited or whatever, but yeah, I could probably show up to those events and do okay, right?
Yeah, go get yourself paid, bro. I mean,
So
why not? If you have the skill, but again, it's a different vibe, right? It's a completely different vibe, and there's a group of dudes that want to do that. It brings out a different beast inside of a person when you're competing, especially for money. I think it brings out the worst in people, sometimes. But dudes that go out and do that understand that environment, and they've been around for a while. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah, you might get called a bitch if you petition too much, by the way. So don't petition too much, guys. If you're petitioning out there, you better chill the fuck out. Protesting, sorry, not petitioning, protesting. Don't protest too much because one day they're just going to tell you to fuck off and don't show up to their events anymore. But yeah, dude. I mean, I think it's a thing. I think that's here to stay. I think it's here to stay until the money dries up, right? Or until the promoter can't do it anymore. But by all means, if that's what you're after, dude, go after it. I think drifting's at that point, right? You have FD right at the very top of the world, I think. I think Drift Masters is pretty cool too. I'm not sure if you watch any of that stuff. Their production's pretty awesome. But again, I mean, it's one of those things where that's the top level of our motorsport. Under that, you might have like maybe the pro specs or the different competitions that are out there because of the type of driver that's there. You know what I'm saying? But again, dude, I think drifting has just a little bit of everything, and I think that if you're into drifting because of style, have a little bit of respect for that. It's just a different how do you say, um, it's a different like that's what you're good at, right? Like a different mastering, right? Like if competition drifting, style drifting, like it's all different. You know what I'm saying? But it's all drifting at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So cool, man. So okay, I know you touched on being an FD. How was that? I mean, do you want to share that? That was 2018 season, right? You did FD Pro 2.
Yeah, I mean, 2018 and some of 2019, and I mean, it was really fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was one of the best experiences ever. Traveling all the time with my friends and being on the same stage with the people that you've looked up to for a long time, right? Just being there, it's crazy, right? It's something that, and I think that's why pro spec will always be big because guys just want to be on that stage. And I get it. I mean, it was so much fun. The competition was really stiff back then. I mean, it was tough, and the competition was really unforgiving back then, right? You had a top 16, you have 40 guys, and they'd only take 16 to
Yeah.
competition. Obviously, that's changed now, and I think they've changed it a lot for the better, which is what inclines me to be more interested in getting back into it. Also, with a lot more perspective now. Um,
Absolutely,
but
dude.
when I did it, I mean, it was so much fun, right? It was so fun. The cars were crazy, the driving was crazy, the tracks were crazy. Um, I have no regrets about doing it.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's not even that expensive. I mean, that comes from obviously it's all relative, but like building the car, buying the truck, buying the trailer, that's what's expensive. Going to the events it's relatively cheap, comparatively. So,
Absolutely. So you ran that season, and then when was it that you kind of just said, "Hey, dude, like I got to back up"? I know you started a new career around that time too, right? Um, so obviously you're a career oriented dude. I mean, you graduated from Ohio State, right? And did that kind of play a role in like kind of backing up from it? Just kind of wanted to step back, or was it just like that amount of time? Was it just like so fast and like, hey, dude, I did this, and it's like, yo, I need to slow the fuck down here. Does that kind of play like a little bit of a role here with your pro career?
um, a little bit. It's sort of like now that I am in my own career and sort of off the ground in my own career, that's kind of what makes me want to get back into it, right? Because I can, the money's not as big of a deal, but getting out of it, I think, you know, I could say a lot of reasons why. I did get my Z around that time, and I was having a ton of fun just driving it, because like I said, I've always, for the last 3 years, 2019, 2018, 2017, even 2016, I had these LS swapped non-street legal cars, and
Rocket
getting into
ships.
something that I could drive, to work and then go to the track and do a bunch of laps in, that was like that was insane to me at the time. Going from spending at minimum $100 a lap to operate the Pro 2 car to $100 a day,
Yeah.
that was really crazy. And then I basically justified stopping by saying, "Oh, well, I can LS swap my Z um, if I just don't do these last 2 rounds, because the last 2 rounds of FD would be about 10 grand, and that's what a LS swap costs."
Nice.
Because my plan was I was going to do like a Nate Hamilton type thing where I was going to go to Grid Lifes and LS Fest and sort of like be more of a content creator, you know, not really content, but more of like an exhibition driver.
I get it, and that's another beast on its own.
Yeah, but obviously COVID happened. I got, in 2020, I was really close to just quitting drifting, like period. Like I was so unfulfilled with it. I wasn't having fun with it. The car was just problematic. I was burnt out. I mean, I didn't even want to turn a wrench on a car at all. I had no desire to do that whatsoever. I was so, I mean, I only drove 4 events in 2020, and 3 of those events the car broke anyway.
I remember.
Um so I just had no desire. Even when I sold it in the beginning of this year, I wasn't that excited about driving. Um,
What brought that excitement back?
I think I really just got lucky with the G because the G looks good. It's so basic and it's better than every other fun car I've ever had because everything works, right?
Yeah.
Air conditioning is ice cold. Like it's nice. The windows are tinted and the tint isn't peeling off. Like it's got plenty of power. It's got good suspension. Um, and being able to drive a ton with, I think, I mean, Keegan is honestly, he saved my love for drifting. Like
Good job, Keegan.
as,
Proud of you,
as
Keegan.
much,
Good job,
you know,
Keegan.
because we have become really good friends and seeing him progress is super rewarding for me. Um, and then being able to drive with some, I've never had somebody like that where we show up to an event together and we pit next to each other. We drive together, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I've never had that. And it's so fun and it's so rewarding. And
You guys are the
not
same
only,
dude, actually. Now that I think of it, holy fuck. Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
same,
you guys are like the same guy, actually. Okay.
yeah. So we have very matched cars,
Yeah,
right? We've got similar goals. Keegan is curious about competition as well.
he
And
is. We've talked.
um, so that's really what has brought, I mean, I am loving drifting so much right now.
That's awesome, man.
Um, but, and I think it really, like I said, it's because Keegan and I know it's hard to preach that to everybody because not everybody's going to go to an event and have somebody like that, right?
No, but I mean,
But
I think I think that's like the one. I think you could agree with me. That's the one part of drifting anywhere in the United States that you go. Like a buddy from the internet, and like and again, like I can't talk to like everyone's personality, but like, yo, dude, let's go grab a beer. Like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the thing that I think. Like, I look back at drifting. I could tell you, dude, the amount of fun that we would have as a staff, like, and I'm sure you've heard the stories, right? Like, the amount of fun, and I mean, kind of going even back to 2005, I'm like, holy shit, man, we've lived it up, and like, all my entire 20s, um, I didn't do the normal 20-year-old thing. I did the drifting 20-year-old thing, running events and traveling and going to FD events, or like oh dude, Brian Eggert's running an event over here, like, hey guys, come out here and just have a good time. And like you would meet all these different dudes in Texas or Virginia or Jersey, whatever. But I think, yeah, you're right. I think that the people is what makes drifting, the community, right? The community is what makes drifting the awesome thing. And I think the quicker we tell the naysayers to go fuck themselves, and excuse me, that's just me talking, Geoff. You've known me for years now.
yeah,
But the quicker we get those negative vibes and bullshit and all the bullshit away from us, I think the quicker we'll continue to love drifting and continue to grow our community and drifting in general. You know what I'm saying? So that's awesome that you've been able to get that love back, man. And I'm glad that Keegan, has. I mean, Keegan's a great dude, man. Keegan's a great guy. Drives a lot. Drives awesome. I think every event that you see the kid, he's fucking getting better.
yeah, 100%. So it's been great. And then Street League too. I mean, being able to drive Street League and having some success there. I mean, that just was really the cherry on top.
Yeah, that
I
was
mean,
cool. That was cool. You and Stoneback going at it, huh? Because I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
because that's a heavy hitter, man. Like, I mean, Stoneback, dude. Jeff Stoneback also drove Pro 2, and he's doing his thing, and to kind of see both of you guys kind of going at it at Kill Care for Street League was pretty awesome. I thought, I was like, damn, that's a classic battle right there.
and that was my first tandem competition since leaving FD. So it was definitely a little intimidating at first getting back out there, but once you win that first battle and it just felt so good to be back in that like competition atmosphere, but with no pressure and
Yeah.
the car is air conditioning blasting the whole time. I mean, you really couldn't beat it.
You
So
can't beat it. That's awesome, man. So what's the rest of the plans? Kind of running out of time here. What's the rest of the plans for this season? Like, what do you have planned? And I guess if you have time, like, what are some of the goals for 2022?
so the rest of the season, I mean, I'm just driving a bunch. Honestly, the G is rock solid. It's just like a street. I mean, it's like a normal car that you would drive every day. I mean, I drive it all the time. So obviously finishing out the season with Drift Indy and some other events around here. I'm not really looking to drive that far away or anything, but just getting a lot of seat time and trying to keep it cheap because we are building a house, so
Oh,
that should be done here at the end of the in the next couple months. So
awesome! Congrats, dude.
sort of tracking that. Thank you, and that's going to be a big part of my life. The back half of this year, getting into there and all that. But I've got some cool stuff that's in the works. Like I mentioned, getting back into the competitive side of things a little bit. Um, I've got some plans there and got some stuff, moving there. So I should, be able to talk a little bit more about that stuff in the next few months. But
Awesome.
2022, I think it'll be cool. I mean, I think that obviously the G is not going anywhere, right? The G is so good.
It
If
just
I ever
works.
try to sell that thing, you just need to
Okay.
literally just ban me from ever driving again because
Okay.
obviously I've lost my mind. Um,
That's awesome.
but but yeah, maybe another car next year. Maybe doing some of those events we talked about with some cash grabs, and then maybe maybe a return to pro spec in 2023. I don't really know,
Okay.
but
Cool, man.
certainly on the radar, I should say.
Absolutely, dude. Well, dude, I mean, again, it's been an honor, talking to you, knowing you, and just kind of seeing you, we really progress, really, I would say quickly, quicker than, a lot of people, that I've met over the years. So, and then congrats, on the house, congrats on just everything. Thank you so much for being, with me, this evening. And, I guess like what's one last little piece of advice you could give out there to the guys that just started driving, or they're on their second year, and well, what are some of the things that you would kind of advise them on, in really enjoying, the motorsport?
I mean, I would just say keep driving and do what is live within your means. I mean, I think that's the best advice I can give. Drive a car that doesn't, in my opinion, drive a car that doesn't require a lot of maintenance, doesn't require a lot of money, something where you can just focus on enjoying your time, enjoying your events, find people that you can drive with. Just keep it as simple. I mean, it's so hard, right? Because I've made all the mistakes. and um
Have
you
you?
just you just don't know until you've made them how to, everybody wants the LS swap car, everybody wants the dog box, everybody wants the quick change, everybody wants the big trailers, but until you've been there and done it, it's like so hard to convey, like it's not what you think it is. Just having a simple car, because look at all the guys that do it big, they always come back to the simple stuff
So keep it simple.
and the seat
Yeah.
time. Yeah, so keep it simple and
Keep it
just
simple. I love that. I love. We need to put that on a shirt. We need to put that on a shirt or something. Keep it simple, stupid. Just keep it simple. But yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, again, I mean, I'll see you at No Star Bash, I believe. Actually, are you going to come out to the August event, and chill, or?
I'm gonna try. So I'm spotting for Corey Talaska in pro spec this year because
Okay.
he won your shootout
Yep.
in last year, I think,
2019. Yeah. Yeah. He was.
2019.
Yeah. 2019
Yeah, that's
Alaska.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm spotting for him this year, doing maybe some coaching with him. Um, so that's August events the same weekend as St.
Oh.
Louis,
Oh.
but
Yeah. 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 It's true. True. Yeah.
I'm
Because.
actually thinking about trying to figure out a way to get back and drive on Sunday because I really want to make that. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll be at the track at Killcare. Yeah, there's no more shoot out, no more Midwest Drift Union. That's not a bad thing. Again, I think all great things come to an end, right? But I'm very happy, to have drivers like Geoff and Stone back, and hopefully Scuds. Scuds wants to come back and do some driving, but come out to the Street League. That's what we're doing now. Um, the next one's November 2nd. Hopefully Geoff will join us. I know Morgan's going to join us. I
yep,
think.
Morgan's going to be in the booth announcing. That's going to
Yeah,
be very exciting.
she's going to be in the booth announcing, helping us out. Yeah, like Derek and Marcus are beautiful, beautiful men, but I'm tired of looking at them. So for 2 hours. So, but yeah, man, thank you again, dude, for always being there, just being such a great ambassador of Midwest drifting, right? Because that's what we represent here. And I will see you hopefully in August. If not, I'll see you at No Star Bash. Thank you for your time, dude. I really appreciate it. All right, Geoff.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it, man. Have a good one.
Cool. See ya.
All right, take care, man.
Bye.
Thank you. So yeah, guys, Geoff the Naughty joining me this evening. It's always good to kind of hear a driver's perspective from that end, and what are some of the things that he's kind of gone through, how he started. And like you said, keep it simple, have fun. The dude is ripping in his G37, Lord, beautiful wheels on it, looking good, and he actually won the last Street League event. So very excited to see him. But I did want to thank all of you guys. I'm on my hour mark here, actually a little bit over. But I'll go ahead and leave you with one of my favorite songs ever by my favorite band ever, The Crew. And we'll leave it at that. So until next time, thank you. I am signing off for this season. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you guys go over to the YouTube, like, subscribe, all that mess. Like, subscribe here on Twitch as well. We are going to be partying at No Star Bash September 17th through the 19th. 3 days. That's 3 days for you guys. And then, of course, more events on the driftindy.com website. Again, thank you very much. I'm signing off. I'm Edgar. And we will see you guys here very soon. Thanks, guys.